How's it going, man?
Hi.
Long time no see.
I know.
World traveler.
Yeah. I'm back on this side of the planet.
Yeah. How were your travels?
Pretty awesome. Yeah, pretty awesome for a bunch of reasons. First of all, just the flights were really kind of actually wonderful because I think I told you I did the credit card point hacking thing and then redeemed a bunch of miles. And so flew very fancy class both ways, which was really makes a difference. I had one 12-hour flight that I slept for 10 hours because I was in a big comfy bed with a door. It was, yeah.
That is awesome. I'm going to have to try that method of travel. I haven't really done anything beyond just standard economy, but I do always have the thing, I think we talked about this before, where I pretty much always try to get a exit row seat or something just because long legs, makes a big difference.
Yep. The length makes a big difference, but man, having your own little pod was delightful. And then the food is really good. So it's they serve you a 6-course delicious meal, and it's pretty awesome. What could have been a very painful travel experience was actually great. And then the actual time in Hong Kong was really wonderful. Really fun working on someone else's business. It was just there's no anxiety. It's like consulting, right? It's there's no anxiety. It's you're leaving. You feel like you have total clarity on everything because you have no emotional connection to it. But also he was at a really good stage for me to be able to help out. He's been building for 3 months. It's a Rails app. And so there was enough stuff there that I could kind of dive in and clean some stuff up. One of the first things we did was a bunch of performance improvements, because there were a couple naive queries generating pages where it was just a thing.each and a thing.each and a thing.each.
Classic n plus ones.
Yeah, n plus a million kind of thing. there was a whole bunch. So we took a couple pages down from literally thousands of queries down to a small handful, which is very gratifying work.
Mm-hmm.
So we did some perf stuff, and then we refactored a bunch of things and just transferring a lot of Rails knowledge, and also just general environment stuff. So I was helping him create some aliases, and he started using Vim, and I was driving and sort of giving Vim instruction on the fly, which was really fun.
Quick aside, you'll be proud of me. I have been doing a little bit of Vim tutor stuff in the mornings. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. And are you using Vim for any of the work during the day yet?
Not yet. I actually am considering trying it today. I haven't made it fully through the end of the tutorial yet, but I mean, even just getting my fingers used to the HJKL and remembering muscle memory which direction each key is is taking a little bit of time. So it's a little frustrating as I'm fumbling through, but I've kind of felt this for a while that I'm not super efficient in my editor. So, and just, hearing you talk about it all the time and every time I see someone live code or I just watch, and pairing with someone who's using something like that, I'm I really need to up my game on this. So just adding to my plate of new skills that I'm trying to add to my tool belt all at the same time, I guess.
Yeah, it's a reasonable one. It's a bit of a painful ramp, I will admit. The first day of watching my friend Dan do his basically first day of Vim, it's hard. You're definitely slower. There's lots of thinking, but the second day was noticeably better, and the third day it was okay, this isn't painful anymore. It's it doesn't take that long. Mm-hmm. It's not a huge cost.
One question I have real quick on that subject is, what do you do for file browsing or jumping between files in a project? Do you use just sort of what's baked into Vim, or do you have plugins that you use for that type of
I use a plugin
thing?
Called CtrlP, which does fuzzy finding.
Okay. I've come across that one when I was kind of Googling it, but this is where it gets a little fuzzy for me is there a happy path of using only what's baked in, or are there a curated set of plugins that are really well maintained?
There is a thing called Janus, which is where it's a lot of configuration done for you and some plugins included. I actually don't recommend new people use it because it just does so much for you. I think it's better to start with mostly stock Vim. I actually have a blog post called "Your First VimRC Should Be Mostly Empty." Nice. And I also link to a bare bones VimRC to get people going, because there are a couple things you should set that are just okay, this should be the default. It happens to not be, but just do this. But I think there's value in sort of understanding what out of the box Vim is and then slowly adding plugins and things like that.
Yeah, cool. Maybe I'll have to check that out. We can link it up too.
And mining other people's VimRCs for plugins and tricks is like a great way to spend 10 minutes in the morning if you're just trying to level up your game. Like and then like pull out like one thing. Like you're like, oh, that's a cool way to handle that. And then you add a little bit to your thing. And like you're slowly accreting a VimRC over time that you actually understand. That's valuable.
That's cool. Yeah.
But that was a trip for me. Like I've been a Vim evangelist for a long time. So like convincing another person to do it and watching him live and like seeing him get better and like slowly being like, and there's a faster way to do the thing you just did. So like, let me tell you about this thing. And it was very satisfying. And I was pumped that he was willing to take the plunge.
Yeah.
So that was cool. So I was there for 2 weeks, and we spent basically most of the first week refactoring, cleaning stuff up, improving things. Didn't really I'm not sure we actually added any features, but we did a lot of cleanup. After about a week, I was like, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable because we've been building a lot and writing a lot of code, and you've been building for a few months now, but like we haven't really talked to any customers. Like, how do we know that this is what people want, that we're heading in the right direction? I'm fairly convinced that if we talk to some people, it will impact the course you're taking. And so he was down and did some cold outreach. We ended up scheduling 3 basically demos with Mandarin schools in Hong Kong. And so we brought what we had built, showed it off to them, and it was exactly that happened, where it was lots of good feedback, lots of interesting ideas came out of it, some ideas for change of direction, some like fairly substantial positioning changes. Just by luck, we had the perfect set of meetings where the first person we met with was sort of not on the super sophisticated side. And the second person was clearly a step up from that. And the third person was a big step up from that. So like each meeting, we got better at the meeting. And the person we were talking to got more sophisticated. Earlier, people were like, oh, this is amazing. And the last person was like, this is fine. But like it would have to do a lot more before I would like consider showing this to my students. And so it was really kind of an interesting ramp up.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, I suspect there are not too many like software consultants who will help you like get your code base more performant and then flip over to business development. And like, like that's like a super powerful combination. If you ever did forget about this whole building software for a living thing and just go into consulting, like, what an interesting combination of things. Because if you think about it, when you're building a new startup or an MVP, like that customer development process is equally important as like getting your code base solid. So
yep. And this approach, by the way, is ripped fully from Thoughtbot. Like Thoughtbot has that sort of baked into the cultural DNA there, where it's like, we're not interested in just like building you an MVP based on a thing you've told us. It's like, all right, like let's do a design sprint to explore the space, but let's also definitely get some people in here, potential customers, show them some things, get feedback. I learned that elsewhere, but yeah, it works. And it was just awesome to see, like, by the end of the third meeting, there were some major changes in ideas and positioning and direction and all that. And I was like, yeah, that's great. That's exactly, I was like hoping that would happen, just to sort of hammer home the point that like, it's easy to build in a vacuum and get it mostly right, but not quite right, or be totally wrong. Like you just have to get in front of people, get out of the building and talk to people.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I felt very good. I felt like I provided a lot of value, and like it was just great to see my friend. We've been friends a long time, so it was just like we didn't work every day. We took a couple days off and like did a beach trip and a boat trip, and even on the days we were working, we probably never worked more than 5 or 6 hours. So it was a really nice balance. It was like kind of a perfect working vacation. Having the thing to work on, I think, made the trip way more fun.
Yeah. It's hard to do like exclusively just travel and tourism,
Exactly. Yeah. Like that gets exhausting. It's like, how many new sites do you want to see and restaurants do you want to try and whatever? And having a bit of a routine and a collaborative project like really made the trip great. Like we went to the gym almost every day, like the same gym, but like we felt fit and healthy, and we were eating like, nutritious food as opposed to trying every restaurant under the sun. And it was just like, damn, I feel great.
No, that's awesome. That's the way to travel, man.
Yeah. That would be a fun consulting engagement, right? It's like 2 weeks of programming and biz dev, and I don't know. That sounds cool in a cool location.
Like if you're doing that under the umbrella of a company, you could just write all that off.
Exactly. Well, someone said they're like, you should write that all off. That was international. That was just consulting, and I was like, yeah, you're right. That's kind of true. This is a game I'll have to get good at, or I would like to get good at now that it's an option. Like what's a business expense?
Are you a Seinfeld fan?
No, unfortunately. No, I'm not an anti-fan. I'm just not familiar.
Yeah. There's a really funny episode where they're just like, the whole premise is just like, you just write it off. That's what businesses do. So like Kramer's like spending money super frivolously. It's like, I'm just going to write it off.
You're right.
Yeah. Every time I say that, it reminds me of that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, can't recommend that enough. Maybe like a year from now, if I have a little more time, I can go do this with him again, or maybe even someone else out there is thinking, "Hey, I should have Ben come do this for me." That sounds like fun too.
Yeah, just take a junket every couple of months.
Plus, it's honestly like consulting, quote unquote, is just so fun because, like I said, like there's just no stress to it. Where it's like, I've given you a bunch of good ideas. Now you have to go do them, and if they're wrong, well, you'll discover that later. And I just sound right now.
Yep, that's totally. And if you heard a few episodes back when Rob was on, he was talking about doing some founder consulting, and I think he's going to get some similar, like, get the good parts without the stress of actually having to do it. So it's a fascinating model, I think.
Yeah. So speaking of that, so Rob Walling took my spot 3 times.
Yeah,
that's like a borderline coup right there.
He was attempting to stage a coup. I defended your position. So
did you though? It didn't sound like you did that much.
Well, I had to play along.
I see.
We were in the same room together, so I had to speak carefully. But
could have hurt you.
But your position is safe.
Phew. Yeah, I mean, you were like, hey, maybe while you're gone, I'll have some guests on. And I was like, oh, that sounds reasonable. And then it's the same guest every time. And
I did. The plan originally was like, I'll just have Rob on for one episode. And we went for, I think it was an hour and 10 minutes or something. And my hard drive almost filled up. But I think we both had like a bunch more things to talk about, and he did come prepared, so he had his own like literally envelope with things scratched on the back of it of topics to talk about. So yeah, I think in his retirement or self-employment, as he's calling it, has a lot of time to think up interesting topics to talk about. So
yeah, totally.
So it turned into 3 episodes.
Well, all right. The word got out too. People on Twitter are like, "Oh, cool! Rob's the new host of Art of Product."
Oh, geez, I know. Yeah. I saw that.
Yep.
Like, no.
So, all right. So, Rob Walling, I will fight you. Just so you know, we'll arm wrestle for this host position.
Let it be known. Yep. Stated here.
Yeah. Speaking of Twitter, I noticed you are leaning into the fire tips technique.
Yes, the hot tips. Totally ripped that off from. Well, yeah. So I've been seeing our mutual friends Adam Wathen and Steve Shoger both sort of using this with great success. And basically, the idea is posting small hot tips with the prefixed by the fire emoji, and just little nuggets of knowledge with usually accompanied by an image that kind of illustrates the point. Those tend to spread around pretty virally if they're useful. And Adam talked about this at MicroConf, how he grew his Twitter following from a couple hundred to 20,000 in the span of a year, pretty much by just switching to this template of posting regular stream of little nuggets of knowledge. Yeah, I'm basically just borrowing that technique, but applying it to some of the tech that I'm working on. So I'm sort of rotating between Elixir hot tips and Elm hot tips, and I have done a few design ones here and there. And they're seeming to get some pretty good uptake. So
yeah, I see a decent number of likes and some retweets and stuff on this.
Yeah.
Have you been watching your follower count at all?
I have, yeah. It's grown by a couple hundred, I think, in the last few months. So
that's pretty legit.
Seems decent.
Yeah.
Okay. Every time I do one that does circulate around, I get, usually between 10 and 20 new followers. So kind of my goal right now is to do one a day, one per work week day. So far, I haven't run out of them. I think it might get a little tricky a few weeks down the line, but it's sort of a ritual now. I wake up in the morning, and as I'm sipping my coffee, I'm like perusing through the code base, looking around at what's something interesting I can post about today. So it's kind of a fun way to start off the day too.
The goal is like, audience growth, I assume, like follower growth. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes over time, like what the rate is. And as you're attracting people with these, they're probably the kind of people that are interested in those things. And so maybe we'll like amplify them later. So if you pick up 50 followers in a month and they're all into the fire tips and you keep making them, and then they start retweeting them to their followers, and I could see a sort of a flywheel thing happening here.
Yeah. Hopefully it'll go a little bit hockey stick, or a little bit of an exponential curve where it sort of like starts to compound on itself. I think that's what happened with Steve too. So
yeah, I think so.
So that would be kind of cool. And I mean, it's funny to see the kind of the ratio of popularity of things. Like I've posted a few Git related tips, and those tend to circulate around, get on the order of several hundred likes and 50 or so retweets or whatever. And then Elixir ones get a little bit less circulation, and Elm ones get the least. But I think it probably just correlates with the relative obscurity of the language.
Yeah, your GitHub one has 173 retweets right now.
Yeah, that one really spread around. I think it got a retweet from one of the GitHub co-founders too, like Scott Chacon.
That doesn't hurt.
Yeah, so
cool.
Yeah, It's fun, and it's also like I will say it's pleasing to see things spread around like that and see the notifications come through, and it's just hard. Like I'm having to make sure I don't look at notifications too often and keep Twitter closed, or else it just distracts me all day long. So
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sort of inspired by what you're doing, because I haven't really been doing much on Twitter. I mostly I retweet a little bit here and there, but I haven't really been tweeting that much. And I have seemed to have reached a steady state where the followers I gain and the followers I lose are about the same most days/months. I've been hovering just about the same number for a while. But it wouldn't hurt to have more. So,
especially since you're now marketing to developers for this new product, like it helps to. I love the hot tips, which is why I really started paying extra attention to Adam and Steve once I really was seeing all this stuff they were putting out. So I think it's a great way to just provide value too, because it's so digestible. I used to link off to the level code base, did that a few times, and those didn't really circulate around much, just because it's a little extra hurdle of like clicking through a link and trying to look at whatever point I'm trying to make. So thinking about how to package them up into small little nuggets, I think, is super valuable.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the goal is to build more of an audience, but the way you're doing it is by being useful.
Yeah,
that feels good to me. I'm down with that.
Yeah,
you're not just like, hey, level's cool. Hey, I made this thing called level. I'm working on a thing called level. Do you want to buy it? I like the approach. Be useful on the internet. It's a good way of thinking about it, Adam.
Yep, it is.
Yeah. What else is new in your world? I have some stuff too, but
yeah. So I've been pretty heads down, still building product. And I am doing today, actually, I'm going to be whiteboarding with Rob. We kind of talked about this a little bit on a previous episode, but one of the things I'm trying to get nailed down is a pretty critical component of level. And that's sort of categorizing the different types of communication that need to be managed through level, and then figuring out how best to present that in the application and how that flows from, into people's inboxes and how it's presented to users as they, step away from the product for 6 hours and come back. And how do I make sure that urgent things are flowing through in a timely manner and non-urgent things are not interrupting people. So I sort of started a spreadsheet where I am listing out the different types of communication that needs to be refined. And then I need to come up with a few patterns for the user interface. And once I get that nailed down, that's what I'm planning to get in front of users. So I'm going to reach out to some of the list and present those to them. But I want to get that nailed down because that's been my one hesitation with doing rounds of mockups is I want to make sure it's actually going to be something concrete and useful. And I think this is going to be probably the best thing to get feedback on and say, like, when something urgent comes through, here's what the flow looks like. Or when someone wants to say happy birthday to their colleagues, here's how they would post that message, and here's how it would look in your flow. So
you saw that tweet that I from Patrick McKenzie.
Yes.
Yeah. He was basically making a feature request to Slack saying, like, I would love to be able to send a message to someone, but also indicate that, like, hey, this is really not important. Don't respond to it. Don't stop what you're doing.
Yep. That notion of urgency, I think that's surfacing as one of the most important or one of the most deep problems that people have with Slack is the false sense of urgency. And I think that's, like figuring out how to mitigate that and not swing too far in the other direction where like things just get constantly lost because they're not getting seen. Surfacing that right level of visibility, there's a lot of like threading a needle there for sure. So I'm going to do that. That'll be a good exercise. It's always fun. I've talked about this in the past. The funnest part of Drip was these collaboration opportunities where we're in front of a whiteboard and hashing out problems. So I'm kind of looking forward to doing that again. It's been many months now of just kind of working solo. So that'll be fun. I think Rob will enjoy it too.
Yeah. I loved what Rob said about you and he have the ability to whiteboard together for a long period of time and you know each other well enough and you're comfortable enough that you don't have to be talking the whole time. Like you can both just be sort of sitting there thinking or sketching, or I thought that was like just a really interesting little anecdote.
Yeah. When you're not as comfortable with someone, you feel the need to keep talking, or let's keep the conversation moving, or and sometimes that's not what a creative exercise, a true brainstorming needs. You know, it often needs long periods of silence, or just saying things that sound stupid or are not well-formed ideas, and you just say them anyways because getting them out there will unlock other ideas.
Right. And you have the trust to be able to do that.
Yeah.
The comfort.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
So I think the quicker teams can get to that, and I think that's, that'll be something important for you to foster with your founding team is and maybe you're already there because you have a lot of, existing relationship with your co-founders, but being able to do that, I think is vital.
Yeah, I'd say so far so good on that.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I dig it. You said you've been working alone for a while. How are you holding up?
I'm holding up pretty well. I think I'm used to now the wake up in the morning and feel like I could be working on anything, like that kind of vast expanse of of not having any limits on what I'm working on, and so I'm developing some good methods of trying to build short checklists for myself or set a few goals for the day. I actually have the Momentum, I think that's what Momentum is the name of it, the browser plugin where it just shows you the current time, and you can set a small to-do list. And I've been using that just for jotting down as I wake up, here's the things I want to work on today. And then every time I open a new tab, it's right there in front of my face. So that sort of works well for me right now. That and controlling distractions, I think, are the two biggest things for me. So I've been trying to keep my phone out of the room, trying to close all tabs that might send notifications, even email. It's always a struggle, but so far so good. One other thing, level related thing that I'm thinking about doing that I've been working on is I wanted to get a more fleshed out landing page live. So I've been working on some copywriting for that. Right now I just have the product hunt page, but it doesn't give you a whole lot of flexibility to do a little bit longer form copy. So I've been working on that. And one idea that I had, I sort of riffed on this with some folks at MicroConf and got some good feedback. I want to give a little more incentive than just signing up to receive email updates on progress. And one opportunity I thought of was, since there is going to be a unified identity on Level, there's an opportunity to sort of let someone reserve a handle on Level, sort of like you would a Twitter handle. So what I'm baking into this landing page at the bottom, the call to action is to basically reserve your handle. So it'll be level.app/whatever. And I know anytime I see that on something that some new startup, I'm always incentivized to grab my name. I want to make sure no one takes it. So
that's a cool idea. I'm stealing that.
Yeah, totally. So I think I was talking to Josh from Honey Badger, and he was like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And then at the end of the conversation, he was like, oh, by the way, definitely please email me before you do that, because I want to make sure I grab my name. So
nice. I like that.
Yeah.
That's cool. So I had a similar idea of how do I incentivize people to do something? I was thinking actually in the context of annual plan upsells. And I was like, what can I offer developers that will help push them over the line? And did you ever use Slashdot? Were you ever a Slashdot person?
Not really.
Okay. So think basically Hacker News, but earlier. And one of the interesting things about Slashdot is in every comment you make, it would show your username. And then in parens after that, it would show your user ID number. And so there was cachet in low user IDs because it meant you had been there for a long time. And so one thing I was thinking about is exposing user IDs in the Tuple interface. And if you upgrade to an annual plan, you get one of the reserved block of super low user IDs.
I like that. Yeah, I similarly was thinking you could show join date, you could show ID number, and you could have some artificial scarcity of there's only one username of the exact one you want. So
yeah, or some sort we also were thinking for our alpha group, maybe some sort of flare type thing that no one else has, some sort of little indicator in the interface, which is hey, this is one of the core 20 people that ever came through this.
Yeah,
something like that.
Another thing I sort of did with I think I did this a little bit with CodeTree pre-launch was set up a basic like referral tracking mechanism. So if someone refers other people to sign on, then you keep track of how many people they've referred, and then you use that to bump them up earlier in the in line if you do like a gradual rollout or something. So there's incentive to sort of, and all it takes really is someone tweeting out a link that contains their referral code so that their followers can, sign on too. So that could be an interesting mechanism too for like encouraging someone to actually click that tweet button,
Totally. Yep. I like that. So I had a couple interesting experiences. Working on Hong Kong, Dan's business was just pure fun. Straight up until like the day that we actually started working together in person on Tuple, it was like feeling great. Everything's good. This is gonna be amazing. Super excited. And then like second day in, we were had a little chat, sit down, okay, what are the core features for the alpha? What order should they be done in? And like the size of the task started to be wow, okay, there's a lot there. This is not an easy MVP. This is hard. There's a bunch of uncertainty around a number of things, like what kind of tech and all this, and had some definite creeping anxiety. And I was like, there it is. It's this totally hadn't been there at all, but here it is now. Knew it was coming, yeah. But it still took me by surprise, and I was like, wow, and it felt like, for me, it's this very physical sensation, where it's I feel it in my stomach. It's oh my God, it feels like I'm borderline ill with concern. And I'm also RSI in my forearms, still kind of a thing. I'm having this pain at the same time as I'm imagining how much work there is. And it's and my body just I had this really strong physical reaction. And I was wow, this is worse than I thought it would be. So the good news is that was that happened day 2, day 3 a little bit, but then it would kind of clear. And last couple of days have actually been really good. The thing that struck me was I remember this happened after I left Thoughtbot as well, where it was the first week after I left Thoughtbot, I was oh my God, what did I do? I'm there in the co-working space, and I'm oh my God, I'm by myself, and I don't know what to do, and there's so many things I could do, and I had the same response then. And so remembering that, I think, helped me, where I was okay, yeah, when there's a big transition and there's a lot of uncertainty, I have this anxiety that shows up sometimes. But week 2, I was kind of okay. And by week 3, I was basically fine. And I was okay, I settled into a bit of a routine. I know I'm getting used to this now. I have some strategies for coping with this. So far, lately good, but it was man, I was kind of surprised at the intensity of it in the moment.
Yeah. How about your other co-founders? Have they experienced something similar? Have you guys talked about it?
I eventually told them that I had that happened to me. At first, I didn't. I sort of didn't know. I was okay, I'm the CEO. Can I talk about this? Is it my job to put on a confident, happy face all the time so that other people don't feel anxiety? Or is it better for me to disclose it and potentially stress them out, but get support and build more trust and honesty? And I didn't really know what the answer to that was. So one thing that was actually really helpful was I did a call with Matthias Meyer, who was the former CEO of Travis CI, who does executive leadership type coaching. And I saw some blog post of his, and I was oh, actually, this might not be the worst thing to do right now. And so I reached out to him for a call, and he offered some good advice. It was nice to bounce this off him. And his position was kind of yeah, you guys are trying to build this a good relationship right now. Telling them what's going on is probably a good idea. You're trying to get to a point where you really trust each other and you feel comfortable with each other. So consider talking with them. And also, maybe they're having it too, which is what you asked. Where it's I assume I'm the only ones freaking out, and they're yeah, they're all good, but maybe that's not true. So I sort of disclosed what was going on with me. They didn't say that they were having a similar thing, but I think I'm going to try to have at least a weekly retro where it's not just what do we do, but how is everyone doing? Because the thing we're doing is stressful and it's hard, and we're trying to make a thing that doesn't exist, and that creative process is just always going to be difficult on your brain and sense of identity and all this stuff. So let's make sure we're caring for the mental side of it too.
I totally understand your hesitancy to potentially create anxiety in other people that wasn't already there, especially with co-founders. I think that's one of the unique aspects of a co-founder relationship is you guys are equally invested in this thing. And part of the role of being a co-founder is not just there to, play a specific, individual contributor role, but it's also to provide that kind of support to each other. I think that's one of the advantages of having that relationship, where maybe you wouldn't do that if it was just an engineer on your team. Yeah, you would probably try to shield a little bit of that from them. Rob and I always had that kind of dynamic where we could talk about that stuff. And that's why even early days of Drip, before I was officially a partner in the business, like I was functionally a co-founder because it was just the two of us from day one. And then we would talk about those types of things that you normally ordinarily wouldn't loop a typical employee into. So that's good that you guys are talking about that.
The disclosing thing, after thinking about it and talking to Matthias and all that, was like, yeah, that just feels right to me. Like I'm not a put on a brave face and hide the emotions person. Like that doesn't work that well for me. Even if it were kind of helpful to other people, I just function so much better when I can get stuff out. And like as soon as I told them about it, and they were like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, yeah, we're doing a stressful thing. And they were kind of like, it's no big deal. And I was like, oh yeah, it is kind of no big deal. Like, of course that's happening. Like that's normal. That's fine. It doesn't mean we've done something crazy or we should stop or any of that stuff. It's just like, yeah, it's a normal thing. I also listened to a podcast with Seth Godin in it.
Always a good idea.
Yeah. The Reboot podcast.
Cool.
And which is awesome. And he was just like, he's always been saying this, and I just like wasn't ready to hear it, or it didn't make sense. Like I didn't have the same context. But he was talking about how like trying to create a thing that did not exist before is a totally different experience than working on a thing that already exists. And it's way harder and it's way more stressful. And so it's going to feel painful and you're going to feel unsure. And I was like, oh yeah, of course that's true. That makes perfect sense. And he's said that a million times and other people have said that a million times. But until I'm like, sitting there stewing in it myself, I couldn't really be like, oh yeah, that's really the case.
Yeah. Something I touched on a little bit last time with Rob too was like sort of talking about the nature of what it's like to be at the early stages of a software product versus later on where you're just incrementally building features, and it's such a different phase. And I'm now like brutally reminded about that every day when I sit down, I'm working on a problem and I look at lines of code written, and it may only be less than 100, but I'm so tired at the end of the day, and not that I wasn't feeling mentally spent in the later stages of Drip, but it's a different kind of mental taxation. I feel like when you're doing so much like high level thinking about the problem space, and it's less about like the path is much less clear in the early stages, and you're making so many micro decisions about things that are potentially critical foundational things. Whereas when you have like a running business that has customers that are relying on a solid base of features, and then you're just making incremental improvements, like it's just such a different mode to be in.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we have each other to support each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
Through this process. The timing is
nice.
We
get to do it on air, and everyone else who's in a similar stage can follow along. And if only we could hear all your stories,
Yeah.
But
and those people who don't have the same context and situation can hear it and appreciate it on an intellectual level and not really get it, but maybe later.
Yep, totally.
Yeah, nice. I had a question for you.
Yeah.
You got time? You got a couple more minutes?
Sure, yeah.
We haven't explicitly decided this, but it's been happening sort of naturally, is that I have been focusing on doing things that are external facing, like working on our landing page, coordinating with designers or a designer, talking to people, doing podcasts, scheduling calls, things like that. And Joel and Spencer have been doing all the technical work. I've written no lines of code in anything that's the product. I don't know if that is a good thing. I'm actually kind of torn. So I can see really interesting, like pretty good arguments for both sides, where it's like, okay, sales and marketing and all that type thing, like there's plenty to do there, and there probably always will be. And having a person doing that almost all the time is probably a smart idea. But I also have a lot of product development and like coding experience that I can probably add a lot of value there too. I like programming a lot. So like if I build a company where I can't program at all because I didn't happen to learn the product as it was being built, that sounds kind of bad. Also dealing with some RSI stuff. So like doing calls is easier on my hands than, writing another 100 lines of code. So I'm kind of going back and forth, and I was curious what you thought about that.
One, I think you got to figure out what's going to make you happy. If the prospect of not writing code sounds like maybe you won't be able to do that for the long term, or you won't be happiest doing that, then I think you need to consider that. It is definitely a full-time job of other things besides code to get a startup off the ground. I mean, evidenced by, Rob didn't write any any lines of code for drip, and he was definitely busy all the time with all the other things. I still think you can utilize your skills from engineering and architecture and those types of things, even if you're not, spending most of your time writing code. Like, you could pair with your co-founders or your team, or just kind of be involved in those important decision-making conversations where you still get to apply your skills, but then, the ones who actually go forth and write most of the code are not you. Rob and I would collaborate on a lot of technical things, even though like he's doesn't even know Ruby and doesn't, like that didn't matter because they were mostly high level discussions about how to think about architecture, or how to just sort of things that were not quite as nitty gritty, I guess. I think you could still make use of those product design and development skills that you have, just not in a less active role.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm kind of imagining the situation where it's like we're further in and there's like a substantial technical artifact has been created. And the idea of being like, hey guys, like, I feel like it should work like this. And they're like, actually, that's really hard because of the thing we did. And this will take a while to do this and whatnot. And like, I'll have this disconnect where now I'm like the product owner / manager who doesn't understand the technical underpinnings of the product. And it's like, I don't know if I want to be in that position. That sounds kind of bad. So I don't know.
So you could attempt to, for a while, see how in the loop you can stay with sort of what's going on the technical side. I would say like try that for, I don't know, a few months and see if you're able to keep up with it, or if it's just getting to be to the point where you're like, this is not the best use of my time trying to stay up to speed on all the technical nuance.
Yeah. Yep. That makes sense. That was actually something that Matthias mentioned on our call. Was he said something along the lines of, think of most things as experiments, and like a lot of things are reversible. And so like, I don't need to say like, all right, it's June 1st. I am not going to write any code for the product. And that will be the decision period. It's like, yeah, it turns out by June 12th, I was like, I need to be doing this. I hate doing marketing full time. So let me get in there. And that's just fine. So most decisions are not undoable.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you've thought about kind of the subdivision of separate concerns, I guess, that this product will have. I mean, obviously there'll be desktop clients. There will be some kind of web client probably, or some kind of at least administration interface for it. So you could also maybe pick and choose the areas that you're involved in, and maybe some of the deeper like technical aspects of the client, you'll just like make someone kind of take ownership of that, and you'll be less involved in that, but maybe you'll still be involved in other parts.
Right. Yeah. And that's already kind of taking shape in that we need some sort of backend server to hit that we will be written in Rails by me probably. So it could be that a couple weeks from now I'm slinging Ruby like I always have, and I'm not writing the guts of other parts. But yeah, I'm still a technical person.
I think it's less critical that you necessarily know all the technical details about all aspects of the product. I think the bigger consideration is, are you going to be fulfilled in your job? Or are you going to need a little bit of that, scratching that programming itch? And maybe you can get that just from maintaining the Rails backend and not, some of the more deeply technical new things.
Yeah. Did I say Rails backend? I mean Elixir backend.
Are you really?
I mean, as I'm thinking about it, maybe.
I think I'm pro Elixir.
Yeah, like if we're about to start from scratch, the reviews are in, and I don't know, maybe it's an Elixir thing. And that'll give me a little bit of that, like, oh, I'm working on a fun technical problem too, which is learning this new thing, expanding my skills a little bit. That's
definitely not a far leap from Ruby land compared to other things like leaping into C++ land or something.
Right. It wouldn't feel like I was being like irresponsible to try this technology on this, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's not such a huge
I could vouch
change.
For that. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. All right. Well, that's helpful.
Cool. Good. Glad it helped.
Yeah. That point about like happiness, I feel responsible for the success of this company, obviously. And so it's like, okay, optimizing for my happiness versus optimizing for the best thing for the business. Those can be in tension with each other. But I think one of the biggest risks is that we don't want to keep doing it anymore. So if I do the thing that I think is best for the business, but I actually kind of hate it, 2 years from now, how am I going to keep that going? Like, I probably won't want to.
Yeah, and that's where, I mean, if you guys were like raising venture capital, then the things you need to structure the business for are very clear. It's like you're structuring for fast growth, and you do whatever it takes, which means probably eventually selling to the enterprise and hiring a sales team and and there's potentially a lot of decisions that you would have to make that you wouldn't necessarily want to because you wouldn't enjoy that structure. And so one of the advantages of being bootstrapped and independent is you can sort of straddle that. You can maybe potentially do things suboptimally in favor of making your team happy. And I think that's totally okay.
Why even start a company if you're going to turn it into a thing you don't want to work on? Like, I can go get a job that's fun. Like, there are fun jobs. So, like, just do that. Like, to me, the freedom and the flexibility was sort of the whole point in a way. So if I just build my own.
When I hear, Chad at Thoughtbot talk about how he still writes code, like, that's probably suboptimal. Like, he's probably not the best person to be writing code all the time, but it's what he enjoys, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's
right.
Okay.
And he's 12 years, or they're like 12 or 13 years into it now. And if he weren't doing stuff he enjoyed, he probably wouldn't have been able to do that.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm sold.
Cool.
It should be fun. Good. There's actually, guys, I had a couple other questions I was going to ask you, but the answer is kind of the same thing, where it's like, maybe that's not optimal, but make sure that you like what you're doing, and that it's sustainable and good.
It's always good to talk about this stuff too, because I have to convince myself periodically that it's worth optimizing for happiness. It is easy to get on the track of like how to optimize this business for profitability or for revenue and it's easy to forget about, like, wait a second, I should actually be enjoying myself too. So
yeah,
it's a good reminder.
Good. All right. Shall we wrap it?
Let's wrap it.
Cool. Where do people go for show notes?
Show notes can be found at artofproductpodcast.com.
Cool.
We'll see you next time.
See you later.